In the year 2789, humanity had grown far beyond its roots on Earth. Humans were now part of a vast intergalactic alliance, living among countless other species. At the heart of this alliance was the Galactic Council, an organization that claimed to bring peace and fairness to all worlds. But behind their polished speeches and grand promises lay secrets too dark for most people to imagine. Alex Carter was only 10 years old, a curious boy with wide eyes full of wonder about the universe. He loved hearing stories about distant planets and strange creatures from his older sister, Mia. Their family lived aboard a small civilian transport ship, traveling between colonies to trade goods. It was a simple life, but it made Alex happy. One day, while exploring near the edge of Federation-controlled space, something terrible happened. A patrol ship belonging to the Galactic Council spotted him. Mistaking the harmless child for a spy, they grabbed him without hesitation. Alex screamed for help, but no one could hear him over the roar of engines as he was dragged onto the Council's vessel. His parents panicked when they realized he was gone, searching frantically for any sign of their son. Meanwhile, Alex found himself locked in a cold, sterile cell aboard a massive orbital prison orbiting the planet Zorath 7. The place was designed to hold dangerous criminals, yet here he was, a frightened child accused of crimes he couldn't even understand. For days, Alex endured harsh interrogations. Men and women in dark uniforms shouted questions at him, demanding answers about Earth's military secrets. They hooked him up to machines that buzzed and glowed ominously, sending sharp jolts of pain through his body whenever he failed to respond. Tears streamed down his face as he tried to explain that he didn't know anything, but his captors refused to listen. To them, Alex wasn't a person. He was just another tool to extract information. Back home, Maya refused to give up hope. She knew her little brother was out there somewhere, and she would do whatever it took to bring him back. Using her father's encrypted communicator, she sent out a desperate distress signal. Her voice trembled as she spoke, but her words carried determination. "My name is Mia Carter. My brother has been taken by the Galactic Council. Please, if anyone can hear me, help us." The message traveled across light years until it reached the Crimson Dawn, a rebel ship commanded by Captain Jack Monroe. Jack was a man shaped by loss. Years ago, the Galactic Council had destroyed his family during a brutal crackdown on dissent. Since then, he had dedicated his life to fighting against their tyranny. Now, as he listened to Mia's plea, anger boiled inside him once again. Jack gathered his crew in the briefing room. There was Lieutenant Sarah Blake, a calm and clever strategist, Engineer Sam Rivers, who kept their aging ship running despite constant damage, and Commander Ryan Holt, Jack's steadfast second-in-command. Together, they formed the core of a group known as the Revenants, rebels willing to risk everything for freedom. When Jack played Mia's recording, the room fell silent. Her voice broke as she said, "They're hurting him. Please save my brother." Everyone exchanged uneasy glances. Some thought it was too risky to go after one child. Others argued that doing nothing would make them no better than the council. After a long pause, Jack stood up. His jaw tightened as he looked around the table. "We're going," he said firmly, "not just for Alex, but for every innocent soul they've crushed under their boot. This ends now." With that decision, the crew sprang into action. They began planning a daring rescue mission, knowing full well the dangers ahead. For Alex's sake, and for the future of everyone suffering under the Council's rule, they prepared to take a stand. Little did they know, this mission would spark a chain reaction that would change the galaxy forever. Captain Jack Monroe stood at the center of the briefing room aboard the Crimson Dawn, his mind racing with possibilities. The recording of Mia's desperate plea still echoed in his ears, fueling his resolve. He glanced around the table at his crew, each one loyal, skilled, and ready to fight for what was right. But this mission wasn't just about skill, it was about courage. And Jack knew they would need every ounce of it. "We've got a location," Lieutenant Sarah Blake announced, breaking the silence. She tapped a few buttons on her tablet, projecting a holographic map onto the table. A red dot blinked ominously near the edge of Federation-controlled space. Zorith 7. It's an orbital prison, heavily guarded and nearly impossible to breach. Her voice was calm but firm, as if she were discussing the weather instead of planning a suicide mission. Engineer Sam Rivers leaned forward, scratching his scruffy beard. Impossible. Nah, I don't buy that, he said with a crooked grin. Just give me some time, and I'll figure out how to get us past those shields. Nothing's truly impossible if you're willing to break a few rules. Commander Ryan Holt nodded slowly. Even if we get inside, we'll need more than brute force. We're talking about a facility designed to hold the galaxy's worst criminals. Security will be tight, and we can't afford mistakes. Jack listened carefully, his sharp eyes scanning the faces of his team. They were right. The odds weren't in their favor. But giving up wasn't an option. Not when Alex's life hung in the balance. We'll do whatever it takes, Jack said finally, his tone leaving no room for argument. Sarah, work on a plan to slip past their patrols. Sam, focus on disabling the shields. Ryan, prep the boarding party. We move fast and hit hard. As the meeting ended, Ethan Cole stepped into the room. A former council operative turned whistleblower, Ethan had joined the Revenants after witnessing too many atrocities. His face was pale, his hands trembling slightly as he handed Jack a data chip. This is everything I could dig up on Zorith 7, he explained quietly. Guard rotations, security codes, weak points in their system. Use it wisely. Jack took the chip, nodding in gratitude. You've done good, Ethan. This might just save Alex, and a lot more lives. Over the next few days, the crew worked tirelessly to prepare. Sarah devised a clever ruse. They would disguise themselves as a routine supply convoy heading to Zorith 7. The Council wouldn't suspect a harmless delivery ship of carrying rebels bent on destruction. Meanwhile, Sam pored over the schematics provided by Ethan, tweaking their weapon systems and running simulations to ensure they could disable the prison's defenses without triggering alarms. Alex's sister, Mia, remained in constant contact, updating them whenever she heard new information. Though terrified for her brother, she trusted Jack and his crew completely. Her faith only strengthened their determination. Finally, the day arrived. The crimson dawn slipped silently through the stars, its engines humming softly as it approached Zorith 7. The crew moved with quiet efficiency, each member focused on their role. As they drew closer to the prison, the tension aboard the ship grew palpable. No one spoke, but their shared purpose bound them together like steel. When they reached the outer perimeter, Sarah guided the ship into position, careful to mimic the movements of a legitimate convoy. The guards stationed at the checkpoint hailed them, asking for identification. Jack held his breath as Sam transmitted the forged credentials. For a moment, there was nothing but static. Then, the guards gave the signal to proceed. "We're in," Sarah whispered, relief evident in her voice. Jack allowed himself a brief smile before turning serious again. "All right, people. Let's bring Alex home." As the ship docked with the prison station, the boarding party armed themselves and prepared to disembark. Every step felt heavier than the last, knowing what lay ahead. But they pressed on, driven by a single thought: justice. Whatever happened next, they were ready. The Revenants moved quickly and silently as they disembarked from the Crimson Dawn. Dressed in stolen uniforms, they blended seamlessly with the Council's personnel patrolling the docking bay. Lieutenant Sarah Blake led the group, her sharp eyes scanning the area for any signs of suspicion. Behind her, Commander Ryan Holt carried a heavy pack filled with explosives, while Engineer Sam Rivers clutched a handheld device that displayed the prison's internal systems. "This way," Sarah whispered, gesturing toward a maintenance corridor. The team followed her lead, sticking to the shadows as they made their way deeper into the orbital station. Every step felt like walking on thin ice. Any misstep could alert the guards and ruin their mission. But so far, everything was going according to plan. Sam stopped at a control panel near an intersection and began typing furiously on his device. "Almost there," he muttered under his breath. His fingers flew across the keys as lines of code scrolled across the small screen. After a tense moment, the lights flickered briefly, and a soft hum signaled the deactivation of the station's outer defenses. "Shields are down," he announced with a satisfied grin. "We've got about 10 minutes before they notice." "Good work," Jack said, nodding approvingly. He turned to the rest of the team. "Let's move fast. We don't know how long we can keep this quiet." The group pressed onward, navigating through narrow hallways and avoiding patrols. Along the way, Ethan Cole proved invaluable, guiding them through hidden passages and warning them of upcoming security checkpoints. Though visibly nervous, Ethan's knowledge of the facility gave them a critical edge. Finally, they'd reached the detention block where Alex was being held. Heavy blast doors blocked their path, but Sam worked his magic again, bypassing the locks within seconds. As the doors slid open, the sight inside froze them in their tracks. Rows of cells stretched out before them, each one occupied by frightened children. Some huddled in corners, clutching their knees, while others pressed their faces against the transparent walls, staring wide-eyed at the intruders. The air was thick with despair, punctuated by the occasional whimper or sob. "What is this?" Ryan asked, his voice trembling with anger. "It's worse than we thought," Jack replied grimly. "They're using these kids as leverage, hostages to control rebellious planets." Horrified but determined, the team split up to free the prisoners. Sarah used her tablet to unlock the cells, ushering the children out gently. Many were too scared to speak, clinging to her legs or hiding behind her. Despite the chaos, she remained calm, offering reassuring smiles and soft words. "You're safe now," she told them repeatedly. "We're here to take you home." Meanwhile, Jack and Ryan pushed deeper into the facility, searching for Alex. They found him in a dimly lit cell at the far end of the block. The boy was curled up on the floor, bruised and dirty, but alive. When the door opened, he flinched instinctively, shielding his face with his arms. "It's okay, Alex," Jack said softly, kneeling beside him. "We're here to help." Alex peeked up hesitantly, his eyes red and swollen from crying. For a moment, he didn't move, unsure if this was another trick. Then recognition dawned on his face. "Mia sent you," he stammered, his voice barely audible. Jack nodded. "She did, and she's waiting for you." Tears welled up in Alex's eyes as he reached out weakly. Jack scooped him into his arms, holding him close. "You're safe now," he promised. "No one's going to hurt you anymore." As they retraced their steps back to the others, alarms suddenly blared throughout the station. Their cover had been blown. Guards swarmed the corridors, shouting orders and raising weapons. Chaos erupted instantly. "Time to go," Ryan yelled, firing his rifle to hold off the advancing soldiers. "We've got the kids," Sarah called out, leading the rescued children toward the exit. Their progress was slow, hampered by the frightened youngsters struggling to keep up. Jack tightened his grip on Alex and urged everyone forward. Bullets ricocheted off the walls around them, but the team fought back fiercely, creating a path to safety. Explosions rocked the station as Sam triggered pre-planted charges, collapsing sections of the facility to slow their pursuers. Despite the chaos, hope burned brightly in their hearts. Against all odds, they had succeeded in freeing Alex and dozens of other innocent lives. Now, they just had to make it back to the Crimson Dawn alive. The escape from the detention block turned into a desperate race against time. Alarms blared deafeningly, red lights flashing in every corridor as the Council's forces closed in on the revenants. Jack held Alex tightly in his arms, shielding the boy from falling debris and stray gunfire. The frightened children followed closely behind Sarah, who shouted encouragement to keep them moving despite their terror. "Stay low and stick together," Ryan barked, firing bursts from his rifle to hold back the advancing guards. His aim was steady, each shot finding its mark, but more enemies poured in from every direction. Reinforcements were arriving faster than anyone had anticipated. "We can't keep this up forever," Sam yelled, reloading his weapon with trembling hands. Sweat dripped down his face as he glanced over his shoulder at the growing horde of soldiers. "We need to move. Now." Jack nodded sharply, scanning the chaos for an opening. "Sarah, get the kids to the rendezvous point. Ryan, cover us." Without hesitation, Sarah grabbed the hand of one of the older children and urged the group forward. Some of the younger ones stumbled, their small legs struggling to keep pace, but she didn't let them fall behind. "Keep going," she said firmly, her voice cutting through the panic. "Just a little farther." As they rounded a corner, Jack spotted a service elevator marked with glowing green arrows, a direct route to the docking bay. He motioned toward it, shouting above the noise. "There, get inside." Ryan laid down, suppressing fire, forcing the guards to take cover as the team sprinted for the elevator. Bullets whizzed past, striking the walls and floor mere inches away. One grazed Jack's shoulder, but he ignored the pain, focusing only on getting Alex to safety. When they reached the doors, Sam slammed his palm against the control panel, and the heavy metal slid open just in time. "Go, go, go," Jack ordered, ushering the children inside. They piled in quickly, huddling together as Sarah pressed the button for the docking level. The doors began to close, but not before Ryan dove through at the last second, rolling onto the floor with a grunt. "Nice timing," Jack muttered, helping him to his feet. The elevator descended rapidly, shaking slightly under the strain of the station's crumbling structure. Explosions rocked the facility above them, courtesy of Sam's earlier sabotage. The engineer wiped sweat from his brow and gave a weak smile. "At least we're leaving them a mess to clean up." When the doors opened again, the sight of the Crimson Dawn waiting in the docking bay filled everyone with relief. The ship's engines hummed softly, ready to launch at a moment's notice. Dr. Emily Grant stood near the boarding ramp, her medical kit already prepared for the injured. She rushed forward as soon as she saw the group emerge, her eyes widening at the sight of so many frightened children. "Get them aboard," Jack commanded, handing Alex carefully to Emily. "Take care of him first." Emily nodded, guiding Alex toward the infirmary. Despite his exhaustion, the boy managed a faint smile as he looked back at Jack. "Thank you," he whispered hoarsely before disappearing inside. Meanwhile, the rest of the team worked feverishly to secure the area. Ryan and Sam set up defensive positions near the ramp, holding off waves of council troops trying to prevent their escape. Blaster bolts lit up the air as the two men returned fire, their movements precise and efficient. "Clear the ramp," Jack shouted, waving the remaining children toward the ship. They scrambled aboard, tears streaming down their faces but alive and free. Finally, with everyone safely on board, Jack gave the order to retreat. "Let's go," he yelled, sprinting up the ramp himself. As the boarding doors sealed shut, the ship's engines roared to life. Pilot Laura Hayes wasted no time, pulling the Crimson Dawn away from the station with expert skill. Behind them, the orbital prison continued to collapse, explosions tearing through its core. It was a grim reminder of the horrors hidden within, but also a symbol of hope. For the first time in years, the Galactic Council had been challenged directly, and the Revenants had struck a blow that would resonate across the galaxy. As the ship sped into the stars, Jack stood silently in the cockpit, watching the fiery wreckage fade into the distance. In his heart, he felt a flicker of something he hadn't allowed himself to feel in a long time. Pride, not just for what they had accomplished today, but for the future they were fighting to create. News of the daring raid on Zorath 7 spread like wildfire across the galaxy. Footage of the rescued children, bruised but alive, was broadcasted by independent news networks that had secretly aligned with the Revenants. The images shocked millions. Innocent kids, abducted and imprisoned by the Galactic Council, their frightened faces telling a story far darker than anyone had imagined. Public outrage erupted almost instantly, and protests sprang up on dozens of worlds once loyal to the Council. Captain Jack Monroe watched the reactions unfold from the safety of the Crimson Dawn. He knew they had struck a nerve, exposing the Council's hypocrisy for all to see. But this was only the beginning. The mission hadn't just saved Alex and the other children. It had ignited a spark of rebellion across the stars. Mia Carter, Alex's sister, became an unexpected symbol of hope. Her desperate plea for help, recorded before the rescue, was replayed endlessly in media broadcasts. Her voice trembled with fear, but carried an unshakable determination that resonated deeply with viewers. "They're hurting him. Please save my brother," she had said. Those words now echoed in the hearts of countless people who saw themselves or their loved ones in her struggle. As the days passed, smaller factions began defecting from the Council's grip. Leaders of oppressed planets reached out to the Revenants, pledging support and resources. Some sent ships to join their fleet. Others provided safe havens where the rebels could regroup and plan their next move. Among these defectors was Admiral Laura Hayes, a high-ranking officer disillusioned by the Council's cruelty. She brought not only valuable intelligence, but also a small squadron of battle-ready vessels, tipping the balance of power further in the Revenants' favor. Jack called another meeting aboard the Crimson Dawn to discuss their growing strength and strategy moving forward. Around the table sat familiar faces. Lieutenant Sarah Blake, calm and calculating as always. Engineer Sam Rivers, still tinkering with gadgets even during briefings. Commander Ryan Holt, steadfast and dependable. And Dr. Emily Grant, whose care had already helped Alex recover significantly. Ethan Cole, the whistleblower, joined them too, his guilt over past actions replaced by a fierce desire to make amends. "We've got momentum," Sarah began, pointing to a map of the galaxy projected onto the table. Red dots marked systems under the Council's control, while green ones represented newly allied territories. "But we need to strike again, harder this time, to show the galaxy that the Council isn't invincible." Sam nodded enthusiastically. "I've been working on upgrades for our weapon systems. If we hit one of their key facilities, we can cripple their operations for months." Ryan leaned forward, his expression serious. "We'll need more than firepower. We have to win the hearts of the people. Every victory has to remind them why they should stand with us." Jack listened carefully, his mind racing with possibilities. Finally, he spoke. "Our next target will be Vega Prime's moon. That's where they're developing experimental weapons meant to crush Dissent permanently. If we destroy that facility, it'll send a clear message. The Council's reign of fear ends now." The room fell silent as everyone absorbed the weight of the plan. It would be dangerous, perhaps even suicidal, but none of them hesitated. They had come too far to turn back now. Meanwhile, Alex continued to heal under Emily's care. Though physically weak, his spirit remained strong. He spent hours talking to Mia, sharing stories about the brave men and women who had saved him. For the first time since being taken, he felt safe and hopeful. When Jack visited him one evening, Alex looked up with shining eyes. "Are you going to stop them?" he asked quietly. Jack knelt beside him, placing a hand on his shoulder. "Yes, Alex, we're going to stop them. For you, for your sister, and for everyone else they've hurt." Word of the planned attack on Vega Prime reached the Council quickly, thanks to spies embedded within rebel ranks. Furious and humiliated, the Council leaders vowed retaliation. They doubled down on propaganda, painting the Revenants as terrorists bent on destroying galactic peace. But their lies no longer held sway. The truth had been laid bare, and the galaxy was watching. As preparations for the assault intensified, the crew of the Crimson Dawn worked tirelessly, fueled by a shared purpose. They weren't just fighting for revenge, they were fighting for freedom. And as they prepared to face the Council once more, they did so knowing they carried the hopes of millions with them. The Revenants knew their next mission would be their most dangerous yet. The facility on Vega Prime's moon was heavily guarded, bristling with advanced weapons and shield systems designed to repel any attack. But the crew of the Crimson Dawn wasn't about to back down. They had a plan, and they were ready to execute it. Engineer Sam Rivers had spent sleepless nights upgrading their ship's weapons. Using stolen schematics and scraps salvaged from previous battles, he created plasma cannons capable of tearing through even the toughest defenses. "These babies will pack a punch," he said proudly as he showed off his work to Captain Jack Monroe. "If we hit them hard enough, they won't know what hit them." Lieutenant Sarah Blake crafted a strategy that relied on speed and surprise. Instead of launching a direct assault, they would approach under the cover of darkness, masking their presence until the last possible moment. "We'll split into 2 teams," she explained during a briefing. "One group will disable the shields from the outside, while the other infiltrates the base and plants explosives at critical points." Commander Ryan Holt drilled the boarding party relentlessly, ensuring everyone understood their roles. "This isn't just another fight," he reminded them. "Every second counts. If we hesitate, we're dead." As the day of the attack approached, tension filled the air aboard the Crimson Dawn. Alex, now stronger but still recovering, insisted on helping however he could. His first-hand knowledge of the Council's tactics proved invaluable, revealing weak spots in their security protocols. Though Jack hesitated to involve him directly, he couldn't deny the boy's determination. "All right, Alex," Jack finally agreed. "You can help us, but you stay safe, understand?" Alex nodded eagerly. "I promise." Finally, the moment arrived. Under the cover of night, the Crimson Dawn slipped silently toward Vega Prime's moon. The facility loomed ahead, its metallic surface glinting faintly in the dim light. As they drew closer, Sarah guided the ship into position, careful to avoid detection. "Hold steady," she whispered to Laura Hayes, who piloted the vessel with practiced precision. When they reached optimal range, Sam activated the plasma cannons. A deafening roar filled the cockpit as bolts of energy surged toward the facility, striking its outer defenses. The shields flickered but held. "For now, keep firing," Jack ordered, gripping the edge of his seat. Meanwhile, the boarding party launched in smaller shuttles, skirting around the edges of the battle zone. Ryan led the infiltration team, moving swiftly through hidden access tunnels Ethan Cole had identified. Inside, alarms blared, alerting the guards to their presence. Blaster fire erupted as the team fought their way deeper into the complex. On the outside, Sam worked tirelessly to weaken the shields. Sweat dripped from his brow as he adjusted the settings, recalibrating the cannons for maximum impact. Finally, with a triumphant shout, he announced, "Shields are down." With the defenses compromised, the infiltrators planted explosives throughout the facility. Explosions rocked the structure, sending shockwaves rippling outward. Fires spread rapidly, consuming everything in their path. From the safety of the Crimson Dawn, the crew watched as the facility collapsed in on itself, reduced to rubble. But the victory came at a cost. Several members of the boarding party sustained injuries, and one brave soldier lost his life defending the others. When the survivors returned to the ship, their faces were grim but resolute. They had succeeded, but no one celebrated. There was still too much work to do. Back aboard the Crimson Dawn, Jack stood silently, staring out at the wreckage. He felt a mix of pride and sorrow. They had struck a devastating blow against the Council, but the war was far from over. Turning to his crew, he spoke firmly. "This is only the beginning. We've shown them we can fight back, but there's more to come. Are you with me?" Every hand shot up without hesitation. United by purpose, the Revenants prepared for the battles ahead, knowing they carried the hopes of countless innocents with them. For Alex, for freedom, and for justice. They would not stop until the Council fell. The destruction of the facility on Vega Prime's moon sent shockwaves through the galaxy. News of the attack spread quickly, reaching even the most remote corners of Council-controlled space. For the first time in decades, the Galactic Council appeared vulnerable. Their prized research base, filled with experimental weapons meant to crush dissent, was gone. obliterated by the revenants in a single night. Public reaction was electric. On worlds long oppressed by the Council's iron grip, people took to the streets in celebration. Protesters chanted slogans demanding freedom, holding up images of Alex Carter and his rescuers as symbols of hope. The message was clear. The revenants weren't just rebels. They were heroes standing against tyranny. But the Council wasn't about to surrender. Furious over their humiliating defeat, they launched a massive propaganda campaign. Labeling the revenants as terrorists bent on chaos, they broadcasted doctored footage showing the wreckage of the Vega Prime facility, claiming it had housed innocent scientists rather than deadly weapons. "This is what happens when lawlessness prevails," one Council official declared during a televised address. "These criminals must be stopped before more lives are lost." Despite their efforts, the lies didn't stick. Too many people had seen the truth: the frightened children rescued from Zorath 7, the blatant cruelty exposed by the revenants' actions. Instead of fear, the Council's words only fueled anger. More planets began defecting, joining the growing coalition aligned with the Crimson Dawn. Even some within the Council's own ranks started questioning their leaders' motives. Captain Jack Monroe watched these developments unfold with quiet satisfaction. The tide was turning, but he knew better than to celebrate prematurely. Victory at Vega Prime had dealt a heavy blow, but the war was far from over. The Council still commanded vast resources and countless ships. If anything, their desperation would make them more dangerous. "We've got their attention now," Sarah Blake said during a strategy meeting aboard the Crimson Dawn. She pointed to a holographic map displaying the shifting allegiances across the galaxy. Green markers outnumbered red ones for the first time. "But they're going to hit back harder, and soon." Jack nodded grimly. "Then we need to stay ahead of them. We can't let up, not even for a second." Sam Rivers chimed in, his usual humor replaced by seriousness. "I've been working on new upgrades for our fleet. If we can get enough raw materials, I think I can boost our shields and speed. That'll give us an edge in the next fight." Meanwhile, Alex continued to recover under Dr. Emily Grant's care. Though physically stronger, the emotional scars remained. Nightmares plagued him, forcing him to relive the horrors he'd endured at the hands of the Council. Yet, despite his trauma, he refused to give up. Inspired by the bravery of those around him, he helped wherever he could, sorting supplies, assisting Ethan Cole with data analysis, or simply offering words of encouragement to the crew. Maya stayed by her brother's side, grateful beyond measure for his rescue. Together, they became a symbol of resilience, their story reminding everyone why they were fighting. When asked how she felt about the rebellion, Mia's answer was simple yet powerful. "We're not just fighting for ourselves. We're fighting for every person who's ever been hurt by the Council, and we won't stop until they're free." As preparations for the next phase of the war intensified, the revenants received unexpected support. Admiral Laura Hayes delivered reinforcements, a squadron of defector ships ready to join the cause. With their numbers growing, the rebels began planning a series of coordinated strikes aimed at crippling the Council's supply lines and communication networks. Every victory brought them closer to their ultimate goal, bringing the Council to its knees. But Jack reminded his crew constantly that this wasn't just about revenge. It was about justice. "We're doing this so no one else has to suffer like Alex did," he told them. "Remember that, no matter what happens next." United by purpose and driven by hope, the revenants prepared to strike again. The galaxy held its breath, waiting to see what would happen next. Whatever it was, one thing was certain: the days of the Galactic Council's dominance were numbered. The Revenants' campaign against the Galactic Council gained unstoppable momentum. With each successful strike, more worlds broke free from the Council's control, swelling the ranks of those who supported the rebellion. The Council's once unshakable grip on the galaxy began to crumble, and panic rippled through their leadership. They knew they were losing, not just territory, but the loyalty of the very people they claimed to govern. Captain Jack Monroe stood in the command center of the Crimson Dawn, studying a map of the galaxy dotted with green markers. Each one represented a planet or system that had turned its back on the Council. "We're close," he said quietly, his voice filled with determination. "But we need to hit them where it hurts most, their homeworld." Elysium Prime, the heart of the Galactic Council's power, was a fortress planet brimming with advanced technology and defenses. It housed not only the Council's leaders, but also the central hub of their operations. Taking it down wouldn't be easy. It might even cost everything. But if they succeeded, the war would end. Lieutenant Sarah Blake devised a bold plan. "We can't attack head-on," she explained, pointing to the holographic display. "Their shields are too strong, and their fleet is massive. But there's a weak point, an old maintenance tunnel beneath the surface. If we can get inside undetected, we can plant explosives directly under the Council chambers." Engineer Sam Rivers nodded eagerly. "I'll modify our stealth shuttles to bypass their sensors. As long as we move fast, they won't see us coming." Commander Ryan Holt added, "Once we're inside, we'll split into 2 teams. One will secure the tunnels while the other plants the charges. Timing will be critical. We won't get a second chance." The crew prepared feverishly, knowing this mission could decide the fate of the galaxy. Supplies were gathered, weapons checked, and ships upgraded. Admiral Laura Hayes and her squadron joined the effort, providing additional firepower to distract the Council's forces during the assault. Alex watched from the sidelines, his admiration for the crew growing stronger every day. Though still healing, he insisted on helping however he could. This time, he focused on gathering intel, reviewing Ethan Cole's stolen data to identify any hidden dangers in the tunnels. His sharp memory proved invaluable, spotting details others might have missed. When Jack noticed his dedication, he placed a hand on Alex's shoulder. "You've got a good head on your shoulders, kid. Keep it up." Finally, the day arrived. Under cover of darkness, the rebel fleet approached Elysium Prime. Laura's squadron launched a diversionary attack, drawing the Council's attention away from the planet's surface. Meanwhile, Jack led the infiltration team aboard stealth shuttles, slipping past the outer defenses undetected. As they descended into the maintenance tunnels, tension gripped everyone. The air was thick with dust, and the narrow passages amplified every sound. Ryan scanned ahead, ensuring the path was clear, while Sam monitored the shuttle systems to avoid detection. Behind them, Alex clutched a small scanner, double-checking for traps. When they reached the designated location, Sarah set to work planting explosives. Her hands moved quickly but carefully, setting timers to ensure they had enough time to escape. "Almost done," she whispered, sweat dripping from her brow. Suddenly, alarms blared, piercing the silence. Someone, or something, had triggered a sensor. Guards flooded the tunnels, shouting orders and firing blindly into the darkness. The team returned fire, holding their ground as chaos erupted around them. "We don't have much time," Jack yelled over the noise. "Sarah, finish up. Everyone else, fall back." With seconds to spare, Sarah activated the final charge. "Let's go," she shouted, sprinting toward the exit. Bullets whizzed past as the team made their way back to the shuttles, hearts pounding. As they lifted off, explosions rocked Elysium Prime below. Flames engulfed the Council chambers, consuming the symbols of tyranny that had oppressed billions. On board the Crimson Dawn, cheers erupted among the crew. For the first time in years, hope burned brighter than fear. But Jack remained silent, staring at the burning planet. He knew the fight wasn't truly over, not until justice was served. Still, one thing was certain: the galaxy would never forget what had been achieved that day. The destruction of Elysium Prime marked a turning point in the galaxy. The once mighty Galactic Council lay in ruins, its leaders either dead or fleeing into hiding. Fires raged across the planet's surface, consuming the grand halls and towering spires that had symbolized their power. For billions of people who had suffered under their rule, it was a moment of triumph. a chance to breathe freely for the first time in generations. Captain Jack Monroe stood silently on the bridge of the Crimson Dawn, watching as the flames illuminated the night sky. His crew bustled around him, celebrating their hard-won victory, but Jack felt no joy. This wasn't just about winning. It was about justice. Too many lives had been lost, too much pain inflicted. He turned to Sarah Blake, who stood nearby, her face streaked with soot and exhaustion. "We did what we had to do," she said softly, reading his thoughts. "It's over." But Jack shook his head. "Not yet. There's still work to be done." In the days that followed, the Revenants worked tirelessly to stabilize the galaxy. With the Council gone, smaller factions emerged, each vying for control. Some sought to rebuild peacefully, while others aimed to fill the void left by the Council's collapse. Jack and his crew played a crucial role in mediating disputes, ensuring that no single group seized unchecked power. Alex Carter became a symbol of hope during this chaotic period. Though still young, his courage inspired millions. He traveled with Mia to liberated worlds, sharing his story and urging people to unite rather than divide. "They took everything from me," he told crowds gathered in town squares. "But because of the Revenants, and because of all of you, I got my life back. We can build something better now, together." Dr. Emily Grant stayed busy tending to survivors rescued from Council prisons and labor camps. Many bore scars, both physical and emotional, but her kindness helped them heal. She often reflected on how far they'd come since finding Alex battered and broken aboard Zorath 7. Now he walked tall, a testament to resilience and hope. Ethan Cole found redemption in helping dismantle the remnants of the Council's regime. Using his insider knowledge, he exposed hidden facilities and corrupt officials, bringing closure to countless families torn apart by oppression. "I spent years doing wrong," he admitted to Jack one evening. "Now I finally feel like I'm doing something right." As order slowly returned to the galaxy, discussions began about forming a new government, one built on fairness and equality. Representatives from liberated planets gathered to draft a charter, pledging cooperation and mutual respect. Admiral Laura Hayes played a key role in these negotiations, advocating for safeguards to prevent another council-like tyranny from rising. Jack watched these developments with cautious optimism. He knew rebuilding wouldn't be easy, but he also saw the determination in people's eyes. They were ready to create a brighter future, not out of fear, but out of hope. One evening, as the Crimson Dawn drifted through the stars, Jack joined Ryan Holt on the observation deck. Below them stretched an endless expanse of twinkling lights, the galaxy they had fought so hard to save. "Do you think we made the right choice?" Ryan asked quietly. Jack didn't answer immediately. Instead, he thought about Alex, Mia, and all the others whose lives had changed because of their actions. Finally, he spoke. "We gave them a chance," he said. "That's all anyone can ask for." And for the first time in years, Jack allowed himself to believe that maybe, just maybe, they had truly succeeded. The galaxy entered a new era, one defined not by fear, but by hope. The Galactic Council's reign of terror was over, replaced by a fragile yet promising coalition of worlds united under the banner of freedom. It wasn't perfect. Nothing ever was. But for the first time in generations, people dared to dream of peace. Captain Jack Monroe stood on the bridge of the Crimson Dawn, gazing at the stars beyond the viewport. His crew had gathered around him, their faces tired but proud. They had sacrificed so much to get here, and now they were witnessing the fruits of their labor. Liberated planets sent messages of gratitude, their voices filled with relief and determination. Children played freely in streets once patrolled by Council enforcers. Families reunited after years of separation. The scars of the past remained, but healing had begun. Alex Carter stood beside Jack, his small hand gripping the railing as he looked out at the endless expanse of space. He had come so far since that day he was taken from his family. Bruised and broken, he had been a victim of cruelty beyond comprehension. But now, standing tall among the heroes who saved him, Alex radiated strength and purpose. "What happens next?" he asked, turning to Jack. Jack smiled faintly, placing a reassuring hand on the boy's shoulder. "We keep going," he said. "The galaxy is still finding its footing, and there's always more work to do, but we've given it a chance, a real chance, to be better." Mia joined them moments later, her eyes shining with pride as she watched her little brother interact with the crew. She thought back to the days when despair had threatened to consume her, when all she could think about was Alex's safety. Now, seeing him laugh and smile again, she felt a deep sense of gratitude, not just for Jack and his team, but for the entire movement they had sparked. "Thank you," she whispered to Jack, her voice trembling slightly. "For everything." Dr. Emily Grant approached, carrying medical supplies she no longer needed quite as urgently. Her infirmary had transformed into a place of healing rather than trauma care, thanks to the efforts of everyone aboard. "You know," she said with a soft smile, "I used to think this fight was impossible. But look what we've done." Sam Rivers chuckled, leaning against a nearby console. "Yeah, well, don't give me too much credit. I just blew things up and fixed engines." His joke drew laughter from the group, easing the lingering tension of years spent fighting. Lieutenant Sarah Blake and Commander Ryan Holt exchanged knowing glances. They had been through countless battles together, their bond forged in fire and blood. Now, as they looked out at the galaxy they had helped reshape, they felt something neither had expected: hope. "We did good," Ryan said simply. Sarah nodded in agreement. Admiral Laura Hayes arrived shortly after, bringing news of progress on the diplomatic front. Representatives from liberated worlds were drafting a charter to ensure fairness and cooperation moving forward. "It's not going to be easy," she admitted, "but it's a start." As the ship sailed onward, Jack reflected on how far they'd come. Revenge had driven him at first, but somewhere along the way, his mission had become something greater. It wasn't just about punishing those who had hurt innocent lives. It was about creating a future where such pain couldn't happen again. The Crimson Dawn disappeared into the stars, its crew ready for whatever challenges lay ahead. Behind them stretched a galaxy forever changed by their courage. For Alex, Mia, and millions like them, the nightmare was over, and though scars remained, the dawn of a new age promised brighter days to come.